Let's get straight on with it, shall we? Exciting. Why? Well, I think we're kind of facing the makings of a perfect storm here. I don't want to dwell on Brexit, but the truth of the matter is that after all of the excitement, anything bought in dollars will be subject to price volatility. So if you think you know what your energy prices are going to be in the future, think again. They might go up, they might go down. There's also changes in energy taxation, which with all the excitement of the last couple of weeks have kind of got forgotten a bit. But that's going to create winners and losers out there. And of course, in the longer term, security of supply may again become an issue. I'm sorry, I'm boring. I find that quite exciting. Anyway, I shall move on. And the question really is, are we ready to live with all these changes? The obvious questions, sorry, they are obvious, but I am asking them. Are we really as energy efficient as we can be? Are we making the best use of energy data to manage our energy? And do we understand these changes in energy taxation which are coming up? Because they've kind of snuck under the radar a little bit. And of course, are we ready? I'll leave you to answer the last one at the end. Hopefully you'll say yes, but... Right, I'm going to go back in time a little bit. I'm sorry to bring up ESOS. ESOS seemed to be the only thing that energy managers were talking about for about 2.5 years, and now that we've managed to get away from that, I'm bringing it up again. But actually, ESOS did teach us an awful lot, I think, that we can learn from in this area. And I think it's only fair for you to say, what's this slightly balding, slightly portly guy at the front, what's his credentials for actually talking to me about this? Well, our business actually has done quite a bit in this sector. We've been around for 30 years. I've been around for a lot longer, but anyway, we've been around for 30 years. We did some ESOS work for over 40 organisations, and we covered 5% of the nation's energy consumption with our ESOS assessments. And we identified energy savings with a payback of less than a year, totalling more than £10 million. So I think we probably do know what we're talking about in this regard. I thought I'd share with you some of the information that we actually got out of this series of ESOS programs that we did for people. I was going to have a bit of a competition, but that's too much excitement, so I won't. But it's the usual suspects, really, in terms of the large energy savings. HVAC, usual suspect, BMS, all that kind of stuff, LED lighting, yawn, yawn, yawn. Transport, bit of interest this year, because ESOS brought in transport energy for the first time. But then we also found things that we could directly attribute to what we thought was failings in people's energy management. And it was surprising to me that actually it was quite a big number relative to the other things we mentioned there. And of course, this isn't the overall picture, because if you've got a decent energy management system in place, you'd have picked up the fact that your HVAC and your lighting and your transport wasn't working properly. So actually, fundamentally, energy management is not very good, really. And we identified the need for better energy management in almost all of the organisations that we work with. There was nobody that we could have turned around and said, yep, they've got it right. Now, all right, it's easy for a consultant to walk in and be a smart arse about things, and I guess there's a certain degree of that. But actually, even those with 50,001, and I know they didn't get compliant with sort of ESOS, but they had 50,001 at certain of their sites, even there, they weren't getting it right, and they were missing things. Don't forget, 50,001 is just a process to measure your process, rather than something that's going to actually dictate a lot more value than that. I'm a bit prejudiced, sorry. I might share that with you later if we've got time. And so really, I was kind of a bit upset about this. I was expecting, having been in this business for quite a long time, I was expecting to find that we actually knew what we were doing with energy management, and lo and behold, it wasn't particularly good reading across the piece, really, and some large brands that should have known better. Anyway, there we are. So, what were the issues? Again, I don't think there'll be any prizes for guessing what's on this list that I'm just about to reveal to you in true PowerPoint fashion, but here we go. Companies aren't really managing their energy consumption anymore. I was amazed. I mean, I spent a little while out of the sector going and doing other things and came back again, and I think people have got worse at managing their energy consumption, actually. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. People have got loads of data, and all sorts of software systems to manage it, fantastic dashboards and graphs and all sorts of stuff, but actually they're not using that data. They think that because they've got the data, they're managing their energy. Wrong, they've got data. They're not actually turning it into actions that's going to save them money. In many instances, I'm making sweeping statements here, of course. There's also lack of consistency in sharing a good practice on multi-site organisations. So there were some that were better than others, but nobody was sharing the best bits with everybody. Why? You asked them the question and they didn't know the answer, but they realised that it was wrong. Tut, tut. And I think half of this now is that with a recession and various other things, it is now rare to have an energy manager in an organisation. We find we're talking to people who's the sustainability manager, the environment manager, the sustainability and energy manager, the floor sweeper, bottle washer and energy manager, the whole range of different things here. And so really there's a lack of focus we found across the piece. And I think lastly, and I think this is the thing that gets my goat most, there's insufficient buy-in from senior management. You're a senior manager in an organisation and you've got the opportunity to invest a bit of cash to save a lot more cash. And what do? You ignore it. I find the whole thing absolutely stupid, but there you go. Senior management seem to have lost the plot, it seems to me, across the organisations that we were actually dealing with. And this is what we think is going wrong. And I actually blame consultants. I mean, I know I've been a consultant for an awful long time, but I actually think that if you were to go and look online now at various organisations who should know better, to be honest, you'll find this as the ideal energy management cycle. The question that I've got and the thing that we found in practice is, with a cycle, where the bloody hell do you start? Where do you start in a cycle? Do you start with company commitment? Do you understand it? Where is it? And different people are kind of getting on at different points. And similarly, a lot of the processes that comprise those nice little blue-coloured segments around the wheel, they've got different cycles of their own. So you can't have them complying with one overall cycle. It just doesn't work. Now, the next slide I'm going to apologise before I even show it. This is one slide out of a series of slides that we show on this subject, and it's the conclusion slide, so it's a bit messy because there's all sorts of stuff on it. But it makes the point that I'm trying to get over here, really, and that is that energy management is two halves, and there's two distinct halves to this. One is the strategic side. This is the bit where it's about energy policy and strategy. It's about your high-level buy. It's about all of those kind of stuff, and that's caught up with your review process. Then there's a whole load of things that people do. Great. People on the shop floor, people actually managing energy, they do good stuff. And they might have a plan, they might have action. That plan might be a weekly plan, monthly plan, it doesn't matter what it is. But those cycles are going on in different time spans, they're going on in different ways, they've got different management. And what you need to do in your energy management system is to bring those all together in an efficient and effective way to make sure that you're actually making the thing work for your organisation. And actually, that is the fundamental problem that we found with lots of these organisations that we were dealing with, is that they had bits of those in place, but they weren't actually joining the whole bit up. And it's actually not a great thing to do. It's very easy. You can sort it all out. But that's the answer. As I say, I'm sorry. It's a single slide that's doing an awful lot, but that is the real key to a lot of this stuff. And why is it important? Why is good strategic energy management important? Well, it saves money. I should only really have one point on that slide, shouldn't I? It saves money. But also, it's going to become more important as we go forward, as energy taxation is changing, and it's creating winners and losers. Do you remember that guy on the right? I wonder what happened to him. Anyway, new taxation landscape gives more cost-saving opportunities. Let me show a little bit more about that. So what's going to happen? There's going to be no CRC from 2019. Hooray. But the lost 900 million of revenue is going to be added to the climate change levy, which currently itself generates 800 million. So in other words, CCL is going to more than double. Okay. Those who aren't in CCAs, weep. And the Treasury has proposed a single reporting scheme based upon the requirements of ESOS. And it doesn't matter whether you call it ESOS or whatever else, they're going to simplify things down. I can't see what's happened in the last week or so making any difference to that. There's going to be simplification. But with simplification, of course, it means that the bulk of people are all right, but the ones who are outside of that bulk tend not to be. Let me explain. I'm borrowing some information here from a fellow consultancy called Inagco, and they published that in March. It's vaguely right. We've actually looked at these numbers, and we're actually doing a webinar getting under the skin of these numbers later on in the month. But what this shows is the sort of situation now. And as you can see, it's broken down into 4 major groups: small retail, retail in CRC, industrial, and energy intensive. And what you're going to see is that everyone's numbers go up. You can see what impact the CCL has on things like small retailers outside of CCAs. And of course, on top of that, we have the issue that that doesn't count the actual energy. That's just the extra stuff that you pay over and above your energy costs. So on top of all of that, you've got to actually buy the power in the first place. And people reckon that that's going to be about £50 a megawatt hour by 2020. So that's the gloom and doomy stuff over with. Sorry, let's try and be a bit more enthusiastic now. So where are the opportunities? Well, ESOS did actually show a load of opportunities, and unfortunately, when it moved out of DEC and went into EA, it moved from the opportunities scheme into something you had to comply with. And I recommend that you look at the last guidance that DEC produced, which was the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme, and the first one the EA produced, which was complying with the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme. So actually, a lot of people thought it was something they had to comply with. Actually, it's something that's going to make you money. Go and reread the reports I recommend. And then implement cost-effective energy management. And of course, the other thing is that renewable energy is outside of the CCL. So for the first time, renewables may actually have a good home. We'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide. So the other thing is that let's not, as the previous speaker said, let's not ignore what happened last week. And obviously, ESOS is the UK's response to the EU's Energy Efficiency Directive, and so it applies across all EU organisations. So what, I hear you say? Well, the average savings that we found were in the order of 10%. So what if a competitor makes that energy cost savings and you or your client doesn't? Well, actually, that might be a bit more of a consideration, and this can lead to price competition, lower sales and less profitability, or business risk. And if we're out, now that we're out of the EU, being competitive in the market is actually probably important. I think we should all think about this quite hard, and so don't ignore it. And what about renewables? Well, the opportunities are many. On-site generation does help with demand. It's management of sort of demand. There's these tried and duos cost reduction opportunities, especially when you link things like energy storage, which is getting quite sexy now. We're going to be looking at time of day tariffs, I'm pretty sure, as we go forward. So again, having your own generation capacity is quite a good thing. And there'll be other things as well. And work that we're doing now, actually, we found working with some organisations who are just about to invest in renewables because it makes sense to do so, not based on the subsidy. So this is unsubsidised renewable energy. How amazing is that? Anyway, there you go. It's all beginning to play out. And as for energy management, well, there's just no excuse. I'm sorry. You've just got to, please go away and consider yourself beaten up. So, bringing it all together then, last slide. Like it or not, we are in a period of change. Good energy management will pay dividends, and it will insulate as far as possible, of course, from cost rises or the volatility. The move from CRC to CCL does create opportunities, actually, for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're a winner or sort of loser in the CRC to CCL stakes. Invest in renewables and you'll make money. And if you save money, of course, on energy savings that you make. And so I think making energy management far more exciting than it's been for quite a sort of while, and the energy manager has to be, these days, a multifaceted beast with lots of different skills. Thank you very much. If there's time for questions, or if not, I'll shut up.